He says, coming to stay here, it's very comfortable for him, very easy. He obviously has very little to do in terms of the normal jobs he does in Thailand. He's very busy running his own monastery and overseeing many other monasteries. So he's very busy, but here it's like a rest for him from that. And the monastery here is well supported. People bring food and look after us every day. Then the monks here are practicing well, so they're doing what they should to make his stay comfortable. They're looking after him very well, so that makes it comfortable. Then he says, I am running the monastery, so he doesn't have to worry about that, and I'm doing all this translation, so he doesn't have to worry about that. He says Australia is a very peaceful country, especially out here in the countryside. It's very peaceful. There's nothing to worry about or disturb us. So all these external factors are all there to make this trip very peaceful. And he says he's inspired. It's impressive to see people coming every day to listen to the dhamma, to meditate, to offer alms. And he says at the moment Thailand, the political situation is a bit unstable. There's one or two bombs. So, compared to Thailand, coming here is quite restful and quite pleasant.
So have you seen those wild animals yet?
Just staying in the monastery, he sees a lot of animals. Because at night they're all coming out. You just walk around and you can see different animals. But there's also the lay people have taken him, because he's brought a lot of monks with him, taken them out to Hillsfield, seen the native animals there, in the Melbourne Zoo, so they've seen the animals, the Thai elephants and things they've got there.
As a lay person, what's the best way of keeping up with the Dhamma practice and staying up with the next lay?
You have to bring these eightfold the factors of the path up in your daily life. So try to be one that's practicing dhamma regularly, supporting the monastery, attending functions, doing different things to help the monastery is a very good way to practice generosity and keep close to the teaching. Then to use mindfulness in your daily life, to be mindful of precepts, what you're saying, what you're doing, to keep your actions, your speech wholesome and harmless. And then try to develop mindfulness in your daily life, what you're doing, your work, your duties that you have to perform in your daily life. Always try and use mindfulness to have present moment awareness and do the jobs that you have to do in the best way you can with your mindfulness. And of course, when you get the chance to meditate and really develop your mindfulness in a very refined way when you have that chance.
And also how to deal with restlessness and sleepiness in the meditation session. Sometimes the mindfulness isn't strong enough.
For dealing with sleepiness and lethargy of mind, you need to really use the mind. These qualities, what we call vitakka vichara, is initial and sustained application. That's the thinking mind, and you're applying the thinking mind to an object. So chanting is a very good way to overcome sleepiness, because you're giving your mind something to concentrate on. You have a chant that you have to remember, or you read and you focus on the words, and as you chant, if you chant for a while continuously, that concentration and the stimulus of having to remember those words, say those words, will stir the mind so it's awakened. Or you just reduce it down to one word like Buddho or Dhammo or Sangho, and you keep using this word to waken the mind up and focus the thinking mind on that one word, and just keep reciting it silently. For restlessness and agitation, he said use contemplation. You just contemplate the Dhamma, particularly the impermanence of life. Contemplate to see our life is very uncertain. We don't know how long we'll be living in this world, and maybe you get to hear some news, someone you know has died, or relatives died, or you read the newspaper, somebody's died. And when you get that news or hear about that, then you bring that back, reflect on your own life. You think, I'm going to die too. I can't be sure how long I've got. I've got to really train my mind, put my mind into effort, put effort into developing mindfulness in my meditation. And when you contemplate like this, see the impermanence of life, see the impermanence of your thoughts, your moods, the different experience we have. Contemplating like this tends to calm the mind down from its restlessness, and the things that normally make it restless, they seem less important because you know, well, in the end it's all impermanent. And that's a good way to, again, to prepare your mind for meditation. If you're sitting meditation, you find you're very restless, agitated, you think like this, contemplate like this, just to calm the mind down.
Just during the day, like busy working and time the part after work study or that. So when I come home, it's better to not to do samadhi, but to contemplate on things, is it?
Yeah, this is a very good technique for dealing with, say, the tiredness of the body from having worked all day and sent your mind out, having to think and do different things. So when you start meditating at night, so you come back, then contemplation is a good way to begin to prepare the mind. You start contemplating the dhamma, and sometimes you'll find just contemplating like this, thinking it through, brings you to the point where your mind beautifully becomes peaceful, and when it's peaceful there's knowing, there's mindfulness, and that's enough. That's what you want. You want to establish that in a state of knowing. Other times you contemplate just to get through the initial restlessness of the mind, and then you maybe turn to the breath. When your mind is calmed down a bit, then you turn to the breath to make the mind more stable, develop more refined knowing. So either way, your aim is to develop a peaceful state of mind where you have constant mindfulness and samadhi. So whichever works is fine. Anybody else have any questions? There was a question about the length of our breath. If our breath is very short, what should we do if we're meditating? We feel the breath is very short. Tanajan just said, don't have to worry about whether it's short or long. You just know, oh, now the breath is short, or now the breath is long, and just allow it to flow naturally. If naturally the body is breathing quite shallow breaths, quite short breaths, that's okay. You just let it carry on like that. Don't try and control the breath and make it a certain way, make it long or make it short, because then it'll be difficult to meditate.
But sometimes when I meditate, I don't know whether sometimes I can tell I fell asleep, sometimes I couldn't tell whether I really fall asleep or not. It's kind of weird.
There are many methods for dealing with sleepiness when we're meditating, as he explained earlier. Often to give the mind some work, something to put its attention on. So chanting is a very good one like that, because you chant, you're stimulating the mind as you chant, and the recollection of the words, both the meaning of the words and the actual act of chanting can wake you up. There are other methods. One can focus on light, bring up a perception of light to brighten the mind to get through the sleepiness. One can literally stand up, wash one's face, change posture, and a good one, especially in the monastery, people do is they walk meditation when they're very sleepy, and the walking obviously can wake you up. However, if you've tried all of that and whatever you do, you're really tired and sleepy, it possibly is a sign the body is tired and it needs sleep, especially if it's you've worked very hard for a long time, you can feel sleepy. So then it might be appropriate to rest, actually go to bed. But when you're falling asleep, establish mindfulness, maybe breathe in, breathe out until you drop off, and establish the awareness in your mind. When I've had a good rest, wake up, then I'll carry on my meditation. So even having a sleep can sometimes be the only best way to deal with it.
Yeah, what I was trying to ask was, sometimes I realize I fell asleep. Sometimes, like, when I was listening to Dhamma talk, I meditate, and I was kind of like, I hear the sound, but when I have to think about it, I didn't actually process, what comes into the ear. It's kind of like, maybe, is it a half sleep? I don't know.
You're aware of it.
Yeah, I aware the sound and everything,
but you don't know
I
what's
didn't
being
really
said.
process the meaning of it. So I'm not quite sure, maybe I'm kind of half asleep or something.
Do you have mindfulness when you're in that state? You know your mind and you know what's going on from moment to moment?
Yeah, sometimes I do aware, what happened around and the sound, but I didn't really process until I aware, what is the sound, and then I start process, the sound, what it is, and things like that. And then I guess maybe I just woke up. I don't know.
Sounds like your mindfulness is not sustained, and you're losing your mindfulness and even heading towards a state of falling asleep or daydreaming. So your aim is to raise the level of your mindfulness, put more effort into your posture, and more effort into brightening the mind, making it firm and clear.
How to straighten my back, because if I really tense to straighten my back, when I start relax, I just go like this again.
That's probably a sign that you're falling asleep when it does slip like that. If you're awake and alert, and you'll be naturally putting effort into your posture, and it will stay.
You can't really always relax. You have to really contract.
In the beginning, you just establish awareness and establish a good, firm, straight posture. But once you've established that, you don't have to keep worrying about your posture. But you can go to mindfulness, say it's the breath, you keep putting your mindfulness on your breathing. And if you are mindful and continuously mindful, naturally your posture will maintain itself. And you won't have to worry about it. So don't make it a cause of suffering. So what's my posture doing? The mindfulness, putting attention on mindfulness will do that for you. It will naturally adjust your posture and keep it straight.
Okay. Is it a normal thing in when you do meditation that sometimes is it alright to concentrate on the body parts, and then at other times within a single meditation session to concentrate on feeling, and then on the mind itself, and then on the dhamma? Or is it just not good because the aim is just to improve the samadhi and concentration and access to insight? So what's the advice on that?
Yes, that's all right. If that seems appropriate and it's working for you, it's bringing out mindfulness and it's working, you can do that.
But doesn't that mean that the mind keeps on changing? It's not the mindfulness isn't or the concentration isn't sustaining. It doesn't lead to a one-pointedness of the mind.
Since your aim is, of course, to make the mind peaceful and concentrated with mindfulness, but as you're doing that, so you begin by contemplating the body with mindfulness. As you're doing that for a while, you might find that the dukkha vedana arising as you sit for longer and longer might come up more prominently into your awareness. So then you might have to set aside your contemplation of the body and just look at that dukkha vedana, because there's nothing else you can see at that time. There's some pain, discomfort, tiredness. But you can move like that from the body to the vedana, the feeling. You can carry on contemplating the feeling. If you're peaceful, you just carry on doing that, but you might find, contemplating the feeling is very difficult and the mind is becoming very restless, agitated. So you might contemplate the very nature of the restless, agitated mind, the mental states that are arising, the different thoughts. You just notice them. So you're doing, moving on to the mind. The mental states, are they wholesome, are they unwholesome, what are they, their nature? Contemplate their impermanence, see how they're arising, passing away, arising, passing away. You can do that on a certain level, and you might find it brings you to peace, and then you go back to the body. You can even contemplate the Dhamma, but you'll probably find when contemplating the Dhamma or the mind, you can't do it very, very successfully yet if your mindfulness and your concentration is not yet very established. It will be too difficult to say what's the arising, passing away of phenomena. So your mind, the different thoughts, the different aspects of the Dhamma will be quite difficult because they're quite refined things. So generally, you keep coming back to the body. The more mindfulness, the more calm you have, then you turn your attention back to contemplate the body, see the impermanence of the body. But as you're practicing, there's no harm in moving from one to another sometimes. If that's necessary, and it might actually happen like that, there's nothing you can do about that.
Ajahn, can you answer Ajahn Anan that why is it the mind cannot resist food, and how can you overcome that?
The main reason we get caught into wanting food and thinking about food is just habit. We're doing it every day, and so naturally our mind falls into that habit very quickly, and it's a difficult habit to break or even see. But the best way to observe it is to do a little experiment. Say, if you eat 3 meals a day and then decide, this next meal I'm not going to have it, I'll not have it, as a deliberate act. And you do it with mindfulness, awareness, and a sense of truthfulness, that you're true to your resolution. Okay, I'm not going to have this meal, to see what it does to the mind as a process of investigation. And you might find that some desire arises, but you get through to the next day or whatever, when it's time to eat again, and you'll find, well, I didn't die. And you'll realise, even though you have desire for food, you don't have to follow it every time. You're not going to die and not suffer very much. You miss one meal. And some practitioners, particularly in monasteries, they might practice this for much longer periods. Some people have even fasted for a month. And at the end of that, they might be weak and a bit thinner, but they know you can go without food for a month and still not die. And that from this you get a new perspective on that desire. But the way to do it is always to be very firm and truthful to your wish to train the mind, to develop mindfulness. And if you do something like, say, you're going to miss a meal, be truthful to that, and don't sort of say, I'll do it, and then halfway through you'll sneak a bite of food or something. Try and do it as a genuine part of your practice. And this way you get more experience in understanding your mind, seeing desire arise and pass away, because you'll see it very clearly when you do this. And he said, you can do this to inspire yourself. He said, I'm doing this out of respect and as a dedicating this to the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. I'll miss this one meal and do it as a practice to teach myself that I don't have to follow every desire. So you use the power of the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha and recollect that as you're doing, and that will give you some inspiration. Are there any other questions today?
Somehow after the meditation session, the body feels really warm, is it? Is there any explanation for that?
It's the energy of the mind. As it's calming down, the mind becomes more energetic, it's more concentrated. And that tends to lead to either you can experience heat, or some people experience coolness. You feel very cool. It's just the expression or the manifestation of the energy of the mind, the peaceful mind.
I don't know how cool when I meditate, sometimes my arms just like automatically like this, just move itself.
Is it many times or just sort of once?
A few times, over the last few nights when I meditate, it's like I'm this side or this side, just automatically, but more on the right side.
Don't worry about it. Don't concern yourself too much with the physical body. Just keep putting mindfulness back onto the breath, the meditation object. You'll find all these things that tend to pass, fade away.
Ajahn, I heard the new Pali Santa after Sabbityo Vivajjantu. That's a new one for us. What's the meaning of it? Can you please?
The chant after Sabbityo Vivajjantu.
Yes.
Sabaroko Vinasatu Mati.
After that.
After that. Probably Ayado Bhagavato Diro.
Yeah.
Wanado Bhagavato. It's wishing you long life. In length of life, long life. Pala is strength. That means strength of body, good health, strength of mind, good mindfulness. So it's a blessing. It's wishing you that, hoping that you can have that.
Okay. How to deal with ego and pride? I mean, sometimes you're aware that that thought came up, but how do you deal with it and not to allow that to come up again in the future?
Can contemplate the impermanence of life, and if it's related to some other person, you feel you're better than them, or you have a sense of ego, and I'm right, you're wrong, or I'm better than you, these kind of things. Just remember that we're all in the end we all have the same experience. We're all getting older and we're going to die. And however much the mind might build its ego up and be proud and think it's good and all that, in the end you can only be that good. We all end up dying. No one's better than anyone else in that. We're all on the same level in that. And when you remember that, the impermanence of life and the fact that none of us can last forever, then it makes you a bit humbler and less inflated. Your ego's less inflated.
Ven Ajahn, on Monday I came and I asked about the question on the question itself. When I went home, I was still thinking about the question. So the next morning when I started to meditate and I saw the question, and instead of concentrate further on the question, what I saw is just a sentence, and then after that it reduced into words, and then after that it become just a single word, and then become I just see the shape only. And then after that, I wasn't thinking when it's coming to stillness. So I wasn't watching really, just very long. But then, this morning, I just don't feel like listening to any dhamma talk. I just want to listen to music. Why the shape in the mind there? I just have enough for the teaching. I mean, basically, don't want to contemplate anymore.
It says if you want to listen to music, just go ahead and listen.
That's what I intend to do, and that enough of that. Is it something wrong, or is it just a temporary thing? Better to record answer.
He says, when you're practicing like this and say you're cutting off a defilement, I'm not going to ask, I'm not going to get involved with questions and all that. It's not that the defilements will end there. They'll evolve. They're like, a disease. You get a cure for one strain of the virus, and then another virus will mutate and emerge. The kilesas are like this. You cut off it in one direction, so it'll come up, oh, do you want to listen to music today? Your kilesas come up that way. So obviously if you can't cope, you just listen to music. But what you could do if you're practicing mindfulness and you're trying to sustain your mindfulness, you say, oh, I'm not going to listen to the dhamma, I'm not going to talk, ask questions, I'm not going to listen to music either. And you just keep cutting the kilesas off so they've got no room to maneuver, no room to evolve, and this way you'll make your mind more and more peaceful and firm. He said when he saw you come in today, he saw that you were focused, trying to be very mindful, and he sat right at the back and he thought, oh, today she's not going to ask anything. But then he saw perhaps your mindfulness slipped a bit and you moved forward, and then the question came.
I thought he was going to go away and ask the question and then get lost again, So that is the reason why.
So probably you're thinking, oh, no one's asking any questions about the whole thing will end and all finished today, so I better keep it going.
But I do notice, that about this prana, developing into concentration. Before that, when I was doing that, there was a gap, that like a pause. Contemplating, and then sometimes I realize that I contemplate too much, then I say I'll watch my breathing. Then I do the concentration part. But 2 days ago, it was just like it slipped in, just like that, very smoothly without any gap. It just mind automatically go into stillness. So, but this morning it's not again. This morning I have to tell myself to don't think too much in.
This is why we have to have patience in the practice and keep going, because very few people have a good meditation every day. You have a good meditation and it'll seem to all disappear and then you're back to square one. But keep working at it and you'll find the good meditations do come up more often. You'll get more peace, more mindfulness. Little by little the level of your awareness, your samadhi will increase, it will improve. The question was about particularly the kilesa defilement of greed, and how as Buddhists we practice, often other people come along and say, oh, you're strange or even foolish if you don't want anything in life, because they hear Buddhists are practicing not wanting anything, not trying to let go of their desires, their attachments, and they say it's not normal. it's not a good thing. Ven Ajahn was just explaining that, well, first of all you have to understand there's different levels of greed. There's, say, all of us, we work in the world, we earn money, we can buy things without money and have possessions. As long as we're doing that within the boundaries of sila dhamma, within the precepts and right livelihood, not harming any others, not taking advantage of others, then that's all right to do that. There's nothing wrong with that. But on a refined level, you could still say, well, there's still greed there, wanting to get things. But on the level of sila dhamma, it's not greed or unwholesome in that sense. It's not going beyond the boundaries of sila. That's the first thing. And then to understand that, well, yes, if you do carry on your practice, you see the value of dana, giving dana, practicing generosity, sharing what you have, then you'll naturally have a sense of contentment. So you won't be always wanting more and more, because you're also practicing giving away and sharing, supporting the sangha, doing charity work. So again, as you practice like that, other people might think this is strange, why do you do that? But you just have to accept they have different opinions and they perhaps don't see the value of it yet. But you know for yourself, if it's good and it makes you happy, that's fine. And as you contemplate, you can see, well, even if I did keep working in the world, making more and more money, I'd just get more and more tired and I'd have no time left for my spiritual practice. So someone with wisdom can see that, so that's why they're not necessarily going full on to just accumulate more material wealth, more possessions. And they start to see the value of spiritual wealth. And the spiritual wealth, the Buddha said, is these qualities: faith, renunciation, generosity, sila, wisdom. These kind of qualities that we develop through the practice, these are spiritual faith, spiritual wealth that will follow us right to the grave. When you die, you take your spiritual wealth with you, but of course your material wealth you can't take with you. And what other people say, then you just have to accept, well, that's their views, that's okay, they can have their views. But you know for yourself the happiness you're experiencing from your practice, so you don't have to worry that, you know, what they say you're foolish or something. It doesn't really matter, because you know for yourself, well, this is not foolish, it's wise.
Okay. Got another question. I mean, the more that I practice the dhamma, I practice meditation, I feel that I become withdrawn, and then my interaction with other people, like colleagues at work and friends and all that, become less. And sometimes it's a bit hard at work. They perceive it as being because I don't talk a lot anymore, so it becomes
antisocial.
Yeah, antisocial, and they see it as I'm being arrogant. So is this the right practice, or I'm doing something wrong here?
You have to find a balance with these things, because you're still living in the world, so you're not an ordained person, so you're living in the world. You do have to mix with workmates and so on, and you have to, mainly you're still practicing mindfulness just as you would be anywhere, whether you're on your own or with other people. You practice mindfulness, but that practicing mindfulness doesn't mean to say you have no relationships with anyone else, you don't talk, you don't have any social interaction with others. You can still talk, but you practice mindfulness as you talk, and you do your duties, and you might have to meet with others and have a certain amount of interaction, but you just maintain your mindfulness and your precepts and a sense of, metta, kindness. And if you're aware of what your duty is, you have a duty, say a job to perform, and you know the role you're following, the function of that role, that job, and you're aware of that with mindfulness, it shouldn't be a problem, the interaction with other people.
But I think this is also another creative problem for husband and wife. I've seen a lot of the people have that kind of problem with one of the spouses not practicing. So it's very hard for the other party that wanted to practice. So how should one overcome this problem?
Again, you have to find a point of balance. Reflect that it's very normal all over the world. Thailand here, it's the same. That maybe there are families where one member of the family does practice, the others don't. That's quite normal. and you just make the best you can of the situation. If you can explain the benefits of the Dhamma practice and how you benefited from it to your partner, and try and get them to at least appreciate what you're doing. And even better, if you can get them to start practicing, going to the temple, meditating, so on, even better. It's actually very rare to find a whole family, and both husband and wife, who are very committed to practice. It's quite rare, but you can do your best, and then just have a lot of patience, kindness and patience. And if ever there is a disagreement because one wants to practice, one doesn't, you just kind of use your wisdom, try to explain why you see it's good. And if you are genuinely practicing and you're receiving the benefits from it, your kilesas, your greed, your anger, delusion should be becoming more restrained, more limited, getting less. So that benefit should start to help the family in good ways, and so it should improve things, and there shouldn't, any problems that arise, you should be able to get over them quite well because of that.
I got another question, that just in the general. Every time I read the books or I hear the teaching of some moms, they're saying that when they look at a beautiful woman, they have to look at it in such a repulsive way. I just wonder, is it only the male's problem? Because for me personally, using the precept will be able for you to stop that, But why the mom need to do in such a extent to make the beautiful woman look ugly or repulsive, and it become a woman's problem, our problem.
All these different practices are aimed at developing mindfulness in the practitioner and wisdom, understanding. And all of us as human beings, men, women, all of us, we're you could say afflicted or caught into four main kinds of delusion which create wrong views in the mind. The first is the delusion, or what we call vipallasa, the delusion that something that is inherently unattractive will tend to look on it as attractive and desirable. Something that is inherently impermanent will tend to see as permanent in our delusion. Something that is inherently unsatisfactory, productive of suffering, will tend to try and see it as happiness and a source of happiness. And something that is inherently not self will tend to see as a self. Any aspect of life, any phenomena will tend to view with these four different delusions affecting the mind, and this is why we suffer as human beings. So our practice is always to bring up mindfulness, contemplate, develop understanding, and that's remedying these delusions. So in the case of the attractiveness of the human body, you bring your mind, your attention inwards to investigate this human body, look at your own body, and with the power of mindfulness and investigation, you start to see the unattractive or repulsive side, to remedy the basic delusion that the body is beautiful, it's something completely beautiful or all beautiful. You remedy that, say, well, actually it has its unattractive side as well. And even if you're noticing it in other people and external objects, really the way to practice this deeply and where you have to go is to develop this awareness inside in your own body. And the same with the other delusions, seeing impermanence, seeing dukkha, seeing not self. You have to develop this with relationship to your own body and mind. And the result of that is freeing yourself from attachments. When you see through delusions, you break through these delusions, your attachments are loosened, lessened. What's the result of that is peace. You get peace and purity of mind, purity of view, purity of wisdom, because these delusions have been seen through and they're no longer deluding you. So your mind becomes pure and peaceful, and that's the aim of the practice.
Ajahn, last question. Once I had this experience, that I got some, I don't know how to say, argument or quarrel with people, and people accused me of something that. So I set out meditate and started to look inside this person, who is this person? And I started to see a lot of kilesa in there. I feel myself now, I feel disgusted as well. So by the end of it, I feel quite detached. So what happened is that, that I was thinking increasingly, maybe I should try to look again, who is this person again. And I'm a bit scared, in fact. You think, because I don't know whether I have enough mindfulness to do that or not. I wasn't sure. Should I go and do this? I can't do the body type. I tend to do it on the mind. Like, who is this person? Like that.
Any kind of contemplation or meditation aiming to bring the mind to peace. So, that you can be creative, and there's many different ways to contemplate to bring your mind to peace. If you're establishing mindfulness on the breathing and you just keep doing that and you bring your mind to peace, let go of all your other concerns, what other people say about you, all this, then that's fine, do that. If you find contemplating your own mental states, your own liking, your own disliking, I like this person, I don't like that person, I like this what they said, I don't like what they said. Contemplating that, you can also bring your mind to peace, contemplating the impermanence of those things, those phenomena, those experiences when people are praising you, they're blaming you. Contemplating the body, you can say, we're all 4 elements, I'm just made up of 4 elements, they're made up of 4 elements. There's many ways you can contemplate, the idea being to bring the mind to peace by breaking through whatever it is you're attaching to at that time that causes you suffering, attaching to their words or that person or yourself, all the different things we attach to. You contemplate in these different ways and you bring your mind to a sense of detachment, like you said, and whichever way works is fine as long as it brings you this detachment and you find you're peaceful then.
Sometimes I wonder whether I'm a hypocrite or not. I mean, come here, I'll be mindful, but by myself at home, you understand what I mean? When you're alone by yourself at home, you like turn on the TV and watch. But over here, you're mindful, you do the right thing, in front of the teacher. It's
natural, don't worry about it. It's natural, people tend to have more mindfulness, try harder in the monastery or the temple when they come. But your aim is not to just leave it all behind when you go home. You want to try and incorporate it into your daily life. Try to bring up mindfulness, sila, and mindfulness discipline when you're at home. Really, the temple, the monastery is something, it's an internal experience that you want to bring up in your heart, and then wherever you go, you've got it with you. It's as if you're in the monastery wherever you are. Last question.
Alongside of seeing benefits of the dhamma practice, but also you have these increasing doubts about the way leading to the cessation of suffering. I tend to question that a lot and have a lot of doubts. Will there be, real cessation of suffering, end of everything, or will there not be? So that all these questions is coming up. So how to deal with that? Can you ask me to elaborate on the true dhamma practice?
Because it's normal in the beginning to have doubts like this, so don't take them too seriously. The best thing to start with is just compare what you do know, because you don't know the end of suffering, so you will doubt about it, but what do you know? You can compare now, at this time, your level of mindfulness you have, the restraint in the sila that you have, compared this with a period in the past, say when you didn't practice Dhamma, you didn't know much about precepts, mindfulness, and you can see probably that then you were having more confusion, more problems in your life. Now you have more understanding, more awareness, you have more peace in your life. Just that much you should be able to compare and see from your own experience in your own practice. Or also from meditation, you can see that sometimes if you meditate, you probably find you get more peaceful states of mind than you normally have, because at those times the sense of self is disappearing, you have less greed, less anger, less delusion, less attachments at that time because of your meditation. And even if those periods aren't every day, all the time, but when you do have them, you can again compare. If I keep practicing, experiencing more happiness, more peace of mind from letting go of these defilements like this, if I keep doing it, then this is bound to increase more often and go deeper. I'll experience a more deeper peace the more skillful and successful I am in practicing. And so you can just see by logical extension, if I keep doing this, then I'll reach more peace, more internal peace, let go of more defilements and experience, less and less suffering. If I keep doing this, you can do that as well. So contemplating like this, you can see, well, if I keep practicing, whatever level of mindfulness and how much suffering, happiness I have now, if I keep practicing, it will gradually go down. I'll have less suffering, more mindfulness, more peace, and I should eventually reach the end of suffering based on what you can see from your life now.
And sometimes when you sort of associate with good monks, you sort of lift the spirit of the practice really high, but other times when you see someone that do not practice or just bring down the level of confidence in the dhamma practice, so any advice on that? That's sort of leading to the questions that I was asking before. Will that be cessation of suffering? Will it not be? So it's just like that, because the mind is still confused.
Well, you just said the easiest thing for that question you just asked is, don't try to stay and associate with the good monks, the inspiring monks who practice well. Try to see them, try to hear the teaching from them. Because obviously if monks aren't very well practiced, not very well behaved, if they're having their suffering and you've got your suffering, together you're just going to pull each other down. So try and spend your time when you go to the monastery and go and find monks who are practicing so they can help you, inspire you and help you in your practice. And we're just explaining this to other questions, similar, sort of saying some people say, why'd you go all the way to Warburton to make offerings, listen to the Dhamma? You can go to any temple, you can go to Bhakti or go somewhere else. And people, when you say you travel a long way just to go to a temple, they say all kinds of different things and often sort of laugh at you and put you down. You're just saying, those people, they never come anyway. They just got opinions and views about things, and they never come anyway. They never see the place. Other people say you're attached. You're attached to the monastery. You're attached to the teacher. And then said, well, people are attached to everything, aren't they? You go shopping, you're going to buy one item, you're going to sit and think about it, and you look, and you want to get the best, and that's normal, the way the world is. So monasteries and teachers can be the same. If you find it useful to go to a monastery, even if it's a long way out of town, you go and you hear the teachings, you find it peaceful, the environment is good. There's nothing wrong with that. You could say, yes, you're attached, but you're attaching to something that's good, that's helping you. There's nothing wrong with that. And people just use it as a simple put down, or you're attached. You can just say, well, you're attached because everyone's attached to something, aren't they? And they're often attached to not very good things as well.
Then should we support the monk who stopped practicing? I know it's none of our business, but it happened to be in a place of practice, and this monk is not practicing.
Jan says, try to think of this in a positive way. Let's say you go somewhere and you meet a monk and he's not practicing, you feel he's not practicing, you can still support him, in moderation. You still can support him to an extent, wishing to help him so that he can improve, so that he can, if you feel he's not very good in his practice, well, so that he can get better and improve. You have that wish if you are supporting him or helping him. And also we have to be aware that standards of judging monks or other people, we have different standards. Our own standard might be very high, so then everyone doesn't meet the standard, so everyone's seen as a bad monk, but then maybe that monk still has some good qualities, some good in him, that it doesn't meet our standard perhaps, but if we look carefully, contemplate, we maybe still be able to say, there's some good qualities here. There's hope, there's something that can be built on, some potential or something. We can think like this, and then we don't get caught up in what might become negative thinking that will cause us suffering.
Yeah.
That's enough for today.